Good morning, thank you, Jess. And good morning and welcome to this formal meeting of the Children's and Cultural Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Brenda Collier and I am the chairman of this committee, and also in attendance is my vice chairman, Councillor Maria Hume, to my right. I would like to begin with a health and safety announcement. There is no fire drills planned this morning, but in the event of the alarm going off, please leave the chambers to that way. I was going to say the back, but it is the back, but it's that way. And to further instructions out in the car park, please. Thank you. This meeting has been streamed live via the County Council's website, and all your comments will remain accessible online after the meeting and can be reported by the media. With this in mind, I would like to welcome members of the public and press watching our meeting today. Can I remind everyone again to ensure their mobiles, laptops and tablets are on silent for the duration of this meeting? The hearing loop is now activated. If you wish to speak, can you please raise your hand and the Vice Chairman will make a note. We will now move on to the formal agenda. Apologies and absences. Jess, do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Kane Parkinson and Councillor Bamford. Councillor Bamford will be replaced by Councillor Daish, and also we've received apologies from Paul Brewster. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Do we have any members who wish to declare an interest at all, please? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Members, minutes of the previous meeting of the Children and Culture Scrutiny Committee held on the 23rd of January 2026. This item is to approve and sign the minutes of the last meeting of the Children and Cultural Scrutiny Committee held on the 23rd of January 2026 as a correct record. The minutes can be found on pages 5 to 16 of the agenda pack. Do I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder? Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. I think that's carried. I've abstained because I wasn't at the meeting, but I did watch you. Thank you. Yes, those minutes are agreed upon as correct record. Item 4. Announcements by the Chairman, Executive Councillors and Lead Officers. On the 23rd of February 2026, the Government published the SEND, S-E-N-D, white paper entitled Every Child Achieving and Thriving, which outlines a decade-long reform of England's SEND system, introducing individual support plans and reshaping education, health and care plans, EHCPs, for the children with the most complex needs. The white paper sets out the government's vision to create a more inclusive, consistent and sustainable SEND system across England, addressing rising EHCP numbers, stretched high needs budgets and inconsistent support in mainstream schools. To enable committee members to discuss the white paper in detail with officers, an informal workshop will be arranged on Teams. Once a date has been identified, an appointment will be circulated to the committee. Thank you. Just to make the committee aware, I'm proposing to hold a 10-minute comfort break around about just after item 7, if that's okay with everyone. Right, moving on. Are there any announcements from Councillor Natalie Oliver, please? No, nothing, Natalie, thank you. And finally, are there any announcements from Heather, Sandy? No, CBE, sorry. Or Nicola Hilton, is there anything, Nicola? Thank you, no announcements. Okay, before we move on to item agenda 5, I want to just hand over to Nicola Calver, a Member Services Manager, who has attended on behalf of the Statutory Scrutiny Officer to talk to us about the process for scrutinising the decisions. Thank you, Nicola.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The purpose of scrutinising executive decisions is to provide constructive evidence-led challenge, hold them to account for their decisions, test the recommendations, put forward and highlight risks and impact. Members are asked to do this in a way that is non-partisan and to act as a critical friend to the Executive and to the Executive Councillor in this process to help them formulate the best recommendations for approval. The process for each debate will be that the committee will receive a presentation, and then this will be followed by questions from members and officers, and if relevant to the portfolio holder, and the expression of your views. At the end of the debate, the chairman will lead the committee to consider the recommendations that will be made to the executive or executive councillor, and as a committee, you will prepare a statement that outlines both majority and minority views. You can put forward recommendations to the executive or the executive councillor on the decisions. However, these form part of your comments in your statement and are for consideration only by the executive or executive councillor as part of their decision making. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you. So in order to do that, I expect members to comply with chamber etiquette and speak through myself as chairman. I ask that you refrain from political comments. Ask one question at a time, although I don't mind you saying that you have 2 questions, but do one at a time, please, but no more than 2, so that the officers can reply to your questions individually, please. I intend to allow a fair spread across the chamber to ensure all members get an opportunity to put forward their views and ask their questions. Moving on then to agenda item 5. Lincoln Castle Walls Repair Programme. This item is on pages 17 to 36 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The report invites the committee to consider the essential works required to bring the castle up to a safe and maintainable standard, the planned preventive maintenance measures, which will be an ongoing requirement to protect the condition of the castle, and other works that are being investigated. The report is due for consideration by the Executive on the 8th of April 2026. The views of the committee will be reported to the Executive ahead of its meeting. And just to remind the committee that Appendix C is exempt. If the committee wishes to discuss this appendix, we will need to vote to move into exempt session. Can we please have any questions and comments on the open report on Appendix A and B first? And if there are any questions or comments on Appendix C, can we please leave them until after we have voted to go into exempt session? The report will be presented by Dave Pennington, Head of Capital Projects and Professional Services. We also have Karen Kasser, Interim Assistant Director, Corporate Property, via Teams, Michelle Owens, Senior Facility Manager, Corporate Property, Nicole Hilton, Assistant Director, Communities and Deputy Director, Place, and Will Mason, Head of Culture, in attendance to help answer any questions. So over to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'm just going to pick out a couple of the headlines from this paper, and then I'll invite the committee for any questions. So the paper sets out the approach to bringing the castle walls up to a safe and maintainable standard, and the investment that is required to do this. Ultimately, the paper did consider some alternatives, which were doing nothing, which essentially is managed decline through to closure, or just reactive repairs, which is effectively what we have been doing since 2024, which is inefficient and it doesn't provide a strategic way forward. The paper also considers developing internal capacity, which we don't have at this point in time, but the paper does highlight that we are looking to develop that over the coming years. And the paper also suggests if there are any grants out there to help fund the work, which there are no suitable grants at this time. So we've been working on the castle, undertaking some reactive repairs since 2024, and it's now very apparent that we need a more strategic long-term investment into the castle walls to bring them back up to a safe and maintainable standard. What do I mean by safe and maintainable? What we mean by that is targeting our capital works on essential repairs only, that address some of the key risks that we have found in the work so far and represent the best use of the capital investment. Broadly speaking, that is broken down into 3 phases. So the first phase will be focusing on the observatory tower, including some scaffolding and repointing works and replacement stonework there and repairs to the archway. We'll be working on the Lucy Tower as well. This will include stonework repairs to the top layer of the internal perimeter of Lucy Tower, emergency repairs to the internal walls, and repairs to the structural features of the wall walks, such as steps and wall tops on the east wall. There will be a second phase as well. This will look at the remaining priority repairs to drainage and the walls. It will also include a survey of the external walls. So just to be absolutely clear, we're working on the internal walls in phase 1, and all the works that have been done to date have been on the internal walls. In part of phase 2, we'll be doing some surveys on the external walls, and the reason for that is the health and safety issues and the urgency around protecting the public, and the asset has been around the internal walls. So phase 2 will also look at repairs to the audiovisual theatre and the Magna Carta, repairs to the bathhouse, the Cobb Hall, and the Gatehouse Lodge, which is the North and South Lodge on the East Gate, and further masonry repairs to the Observatory Tower. Phase 3 will be very much informed by a lot of the work that we're doing in phase 2, and so the surveys, and based on the work that we've done so far, there is an amount of capital allocated to cater for phase 3, which ultimately is repairs to the external wall. At that, I don't propose to go into any more detail at this stage, but welcome the committee to ask any questions.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for that. I'd now like to invite the members of the committee to comment on the open report and appendices A and B only, please. Councillor Hume, do we have any speakers, please? Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's just regarding the future maintenance and repair. I see we've got a short little speech in there about it, and it's on phase 2. Have we got the actual plan out and ready so we know what's going to go on? Because I don't want it to end up being in the same condition we are now. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. So in terms of future maintenance, as part of the work that we've done to date, we have done a comprehensive survey that's identified what the planned preventative maintenance programme will look like. So what we're doing over the coming year is we'll be mobilising our contractors to undertake that, and there will be a continuing programme of planned preventative maintenance that will stretch on, and as you'll see in the exempt appendices, there is budget available for that into the coming years. But yes, there will be, alongside, if I've interpreted your question correctly, alongside the big capital works, there will be a planned preventative maintenance schedule as well, and we do have the detail of what that will entail.
Thank you for that. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. 2 questions. The first question is on page 20, it says reactive repairs. Are these what is described as bring the castle up to a safe and maintainable standard further in the report? And the second question is on carrying on.
Can we, sorry, Councillor Clark, can we just have one question and an answer, then you come back to your second? Thank you. Otherwise it gets a bit confusing, so thank you very much. And we'll come back to you for the second question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. So what we mean by reactive repairs is, in very simple terms, if something goes wrong on the castle walls, we mobilise a team to go and fix it. It's very inefficient, it's not a good use of resources, and it doesn't give us a holistic view of the condition of the castle walls. So what we are proposing in the paper is a targeted multi-year investment which is strategic in its nature, in the sense that it fixes where the issues are. So it's quite different from reactive, if that makes sense.
Now you can have your second question, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrying on from Councillor Brooks's question, in the future, the in-house team, will it be a in-house team while we're still using contractors? And if we are still using contractors, why don't we train our own stonemasons or stone cutters?
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. So in terms of an in-house team, so just to provide a bit more context to this, we don't have a team at the moment. So we don't have the tools, we don't have a workshop, so we are literally at a standing start. So what the paper says is we will look at developing that, what it will require to develop an in-house team. So obviously, as you can appreciate, stonemasons are a rare commodity. So recruiting stonemasons and recruiting the expertise that will required will take some time. What we've committed to in the paper is to come back with a range of options to be able to do that, so that we can in the future undertake some of these works potentially with an in-house team. However, we've got to bear in mind that the nature of the works that we've got proposing in this paper are relatively large scale. So the reality is an in-house team wouldn't be able to undertake them within a couple of years, but what an in-house team could do is, as Councillor Brooks has highlighted earlier on, is undertake some planned preventative maintenance for us. We will continue to require some of the larger contractors to do some of these larger investments for a short while yet.
Thank you. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've absolutely got no problem with the principle that you have to spend money to keep buildings from deteriorating, having had this experience myself in another place. However, my concern with what we're scrutinising today is I'm not seeing any condition surveys as part of the agenda pack, and therefore I'm not seeing any justification for the specific amounts that are mentioned in Appendix C, and that slightly concerns me.
Is this an Appendix C question you're going to be asking, Councillor Cleaver? Because we're going to a closed session for that.
I leave it to your discretion, but my question is, should there be more evidence before this committee to justify the amounts that are contained, I can't mention how much they are, what they are, in Appendix C, that's all.
Okay, Jess. That's fine then, thank you. It's only if you need to speak about the exact figure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Just to provide you with some reassurance and confidence around the work that the paper that we presented today, there is a 200-page report which backs up the condition of the castle, and there is multiple surveys that we've undertaken so far which describe its condition. So all of this work to date over the last couple of years has led us to this position to be able to come before you today with this paper presenting the total capital investment that's required. So I can give you a reassurance, and if you'd like to look at some of that detailed paperwork, I'm more than happy to come and show you some of that outside of committee, but I can assure you that there has been an awful lot of work that goes into the figures that have been presented in the exempt appendices.
So just to be clear, there is an external report from an external body that's been commissioned to do a full condition survey. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you. Just, I don't know whether I missed it, but the observatory tower is closed, but I don't know whether there's any estimated timeline for its reopening and sort of what structural issues could mean that this is extended beyond phase 1.
Yeah, thank you very much. So in terms of the observatory tower, what we've identified is some cracking that we're waiting for a structural engineer to come back and give us the exact solution. As you can appreciate, with an ancient monument that requires a scheduled monument consent, the way that we undertake any repairs is very detailed and it is regulated. So we're waiting for the structural engineers to come back and propose a solution as part of the phase 2 works. Our anticipation is that we'll be able to open the observatory tower as part of the phase 2 works, but we're still waiting some of the detailed information to come back, so I can't give you an exact response now, but I'm happy to come back and give an update on works at a future point.
That'd be brilliant, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. In the report, it highlights a risk around the operational disruption, but how can we ensure that the work will not impact on the Crown Court when they're working? And also, this year, the summer programme at the castle has increased greatly for events and concerts. So how will that affect those with the amount of public going into them? And also you mentioned that there are risks around...
Councillor Smith, can we do this as separate
Sorry,
answers,
yeah,
please?
you
It
go
gets
on.
confusing otherwise.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I will come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I can assure you that we're working with our culture colleagues hand in glove. So very much the works are planned around the concert schedule. So we are demobilising, stopping works for the concert schedule to preserve that. Clearly the Crown Court is an operational court and we have to preserve access at all times. So as part of the works and the way that we instruct our contractors, that is a priority. So we're making sure that we're not impeding access at any time. So I can give that assurance. We're working very closely with the culture colleagues and we're making sure the Crown Court access is preserved.
Thank you. Also, you mentioned to Councillor Clark about the availability of experienced people doing the work, but obviously it says that there are risks in the availability of enough specialists to carry out this work. So if there's delays incurred because you can't get the specialists, isn't that going to be a rolling effect on delays, and then obviously the programme moves on and on and on sort of thing? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As you can appreciate, working on the castle isn't like building a house, so brickies aren't to a penny. So what we're saying in the report is that there is a risk of a limited supply chain, but what we've encountered so far is that we've been able to get the right contractor at the right time to be able to do the works that we need to do, and we haven't encountered any delays because of a restricted supply chain. However, within the paper, it would have been remiss of us not to raise it as a risk. So should we encounter something in the future that is highly specialist in nature, and we can't mobilise a supply chain to do it right there and then, there might be a risk of delay. But what our experience to date is that we haven't encountered that, but we're just covering it off in the broader nature of there being key risks to the work that we're doing on the castle.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a question really for Councillor Oliver. I need to say initially that I have full respect for our officers, and the question I'm asking, I'm not commenting whether it's good, bad or indifferent. I just want clarification. Page 20, recommendation 3, delegates to the Executive Director of delegates to the Executive Director of Place in consultation with the Executive Council for Children's and Cultural Authority to take all decisions necessary. Is it really the intent of Councillor Oliver to give away her authority and the authority of the executive on this without actually having a final say? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Rowe. I mean, it does state in consultation with me, so therefore no decision will be made unless that consultation has occurred with me. So
sorry, may I just come back and say consultation doesn't say that it has to be taken. You understand what I'm trying to say is we can consult, and we do here, but that doesn't mean you have the decision. That paragraph says that you are giving away the executive and your own authority, even though you are consulted. And I understand that officers are highly unlikely to go against your consultation, but was that the intent of that paragraph?
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Can I just come in terms of a point? So this is around the procurement. So it's around the so it's to do with officers going through that procurement process in line with our regulations. So this delegates the procurement responsibility, and as has always been the case at the council, that is delegated to officers rather than politicians, but in consultation with the politicians. So this is standard wording that we've used for a long time that keeps us compliant. I'm happy to look into that in further detail, but this is definitely wording that we've used previously and doesn't take away the decision-making powers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is everyone happy with that one? Yes, thank you. Are there any more questions, please, on Appendix A and B? Okay, if not, we'll move on. Are there any questions on Appendix C, please? Okay, then we'll move on. So I propose that the committee has considered the report to the executive and that a summary of our comments, as captured by a senior scrutiny officer, be shared with the executive for their consideration. You may wish to, okay. Can you please have a seconder on that, please? Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Well, we'll now vote on this item. All those in favour, please raise your hand. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's carried. Item 6, Best Start Lincolnshire Inclusion Service. This item is on pages 37 to 84 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The report invites the committee to consider the findings and the recommended commissioning options from the 1st of September 26 for the non-statutory Best Start Lincolnshire Inclusion Service. The report is due for consideration by the Executive Council for Children's Services between the 23rd and the 27th of March 2026. The views of the committee will be reported to the Executive Council ahead of their decision. The report will be presented by Sarah Gregory, Commissioning Manager, Children's Services, we also have Charlotte Gray, Head of Services, Children's Strategic Commissioning, and Nikki Myers, Head of Early Years and Childcare Support, Family Hubs and Holiday Activities and Food Programme in attendance to help answer any questions. So over to you, Sarah, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So the report in your pack summarises the review of the non-statutory Best Start Lincolnshire Inclusion Service, which was commissioned in April 2023 and is due to end on the 31st of August 26. The review has taken place as per the normal commissioning cycle when a contract is due to end. A key priority is to ensure that early years services are inclusive for all Lincolnshire children. This reflects both local and national policy direction, including the Best Start in Life, promoting inclusive family hubs and children's centres and improving the good level of development outcomes. And the more recent SEND white paper mentioned earlier this morning, that every child achieving and thriving, emphasises the need for more inclusive early years offer, early identification of needs and stronger transitions into reception year supported by national inclusion standards. Lincolnshire continues to invest significantly in early years provision through its children's centres, family hubs, health visiting, early years locality teams and other universal services. This is because of very strong evidence that the most rapid brain development occurs in the early years and early childhood interventions impact educational attainment, behaviour and social outcome and long-term health and economic mobility. As highlighted in the report, some of the key review findings include that since the contract started, the number of ethnic minority children in their early years has decreased, with significant decreases in some districts. There has been an increase in the ethnic minority children accessing their universal early years entitlements to access childcare, and the registration and engagement of ethnic minority families in children's centres has also increased from 29% to 61%. And more ethnic minority families are accessing universal services without targeted help. The inclusion service has performed well and is valued by families and professionals, and there is strong partnership working with the Best Start Lincolnshire Early Years and Family Service, which has also strengthened inclusive practice. The demand for individual support is reasonably low, with most families who have accessed support successfully transitioning to universal services without ongoing involvement. Demand for interpretation support has increased, but there are languages supported by the service that are also supported by the corporately commissioned translation and interpretation service, which covers a far wider range of languages. There are also more free online translation tools available since the service was commissioned. These are the services and tools that are used by other council services, including social workers and early help workers. The wider early years system in Lincolnshire has strengthened in its inclusivity, reducing the need for a standalone targeted service. The report also highlights the public and stakeholder consultation undertaken, and 139 responses were received across general public and stakeholders. A more detailed overview is provided as a separate appendix as well as the summary in the report. The findings from the consultation surveys also inform the equality impact assessment, which is also attached as a separate appendix, and includes mitigations if the service ceases. Key findings from the consultation include that 92.6% of service users rated the service as very effective. There was strong support for continuation, but it is important to note that 49% of respondents had never used the service. Translation and interpretation and home-based support were the most valued service elements. As identified already, a corporate translation and interpretation service is available in Lincolnshire, and there are more free translation and interpretation tools also available. Over half of respondents experiencing a language or cultural barrier said that they could access help through help visiting, children's centres or online tools. The top priority identified by respondents was that children's centres and family hubs must promote a sense of belonging for all families, an expectation of the whole system and not just of one service. These findings reinforce that inclusion, which should be embedded across all our universal early years services. The review also considered benchmarking with other regional and statistical neighbours, none of which operate a comparable standalone service. Translation and interpretation support is typically provided by corporate or technology-based solutions. In at least one statistical neighbour, ethnic minority families were supported through the Universal Early Years offer, which is delivered by the same provider as Lincolnshire. The report recommended option within the report is that the council no longer commissions the inclusion service when the contract ends on the 31st of August. This recommendation reflects the non-statutory nature of the service, aligns with the need to prioritise statutory services given the financial pressures, removes duplication and supports greater efficiency. It aligns with national policy expectations and reflects that the early years system in Lincolnshire has been strengthened to be more inclusive, including the wider Best Start Lincolnshire Early Years and Family Service. It also reflects that translation support is available through other routes and recognises that mitigations exist to ensure a wider range of services, fully inclusive services, will continue to be available to all children in their early years, including ethnic minority children and their families. In conclusion, for the reasons outlined in the report, the recommendation to cease the service at the contract end is considered reasonable. It ensures the council uses its resources responsibly while continuing to provide strong, inclusive early years provision for all children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I just want to add, before we go any further, a big thank you to all of you officers for the reports you've put before us today. They're all excellent. Thank you very much for the detail. Right, do we have any questions, please? Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. This service is aimed at ethnic minority families, but there are also families who struggle to access services for other reasons. Should support not be based on need, so everyone can access the same service? And my question is around the 129k. Will that be reinvested in the Best Start Lincolnshire, or will that be allocated to another area? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we agree. We want the services available through our family hubs and children's centres and all of our early years services to support all of the children in their early years in Lincolnshire. We have the ability through the Best Start Lincolnshire Early Years and Family Service to provide targeted support. So what we do is we look at each of the communities where we have our family hubs and children's centres, and the needs of those particular communities, and those needs may vary from area to area, and the provider targets the type of activities that they offer for families based on that. So there's a core universal offer that you would expect to see in all children's centres. And then there are targeted activities based on the local need. And then there are also one-to-one sessions. Now, these are already inclusive and already respond to local need, and that would absolutely continue. And then in terms of the use of the funding, Heather's going to take that one.
So yeah, I'm happy to take that one. In terms of the decisions that we have before you, I guess the council's looking at everything at the moment, isn't it? Looking where we've got duplication, where we need to do reviews, and then that funding is being prioritised. So it's not that this funding is being taken and put into another service, it's that we're looking at the totality of the funding and making decisions based on that and where we want to prioritise.
Could I just add as well, our systems and procedures have been enhanced in the last couple of years, and we know every child that wouldn't be accessing their early years entitlement. So again, it's for all children, inclusivity for all children. So we would send texts out to those children, we would talk to those children, but as said in the report, the footfall into children's centres and family hubs has been increased greatly, and also children in settings now from 9 months old for their offer for working families, that has majorly increased in Lincolnshire as well. So we are seeing a lot more children through that universal offer because we know who those children are, and we can specifically target all those children that aren't accessing that offer.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got 3 sections. The first one is a question backed up by 2 other questions which would be answered in the first one, and then 2 other pieces. So I'll take them in whatever order you like. First, the main question is, what impact will this have on statutory services? Will the removal of staff add pressure on the support of other children attending? I see the speech and language support is given at family hubs outside of the inclusion service. Have they the capacity to up their game? That's the first section.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. So in terms of the impact on statutory services, so we do not believe that this will have a negative impact in terms of demand on statutory services. The services that children and young people can access these are universal services with the ability then for some more targeted intervention, and if any families need any statutory support, we would expect them already to be able to access that, and they will be able to continue to access that. I think it's also worth noting that the group activities that are currently provided through the Best Start Lincolnshire Inclusion Service are already co-delivered by our early years and family service. So the staff who are working in the children's centres with these families currently are already and will continue to be there offering sessions. We're really comfortable that within the capacity of existing of children's centre activity, that these families, they can and they will continue to be able to receive the services available. And then in terms of speech and language, so similarly, this current service, the Best Start Inclusion Service, they're not directly providing speech, language and communication support and interventions for children and young people. They may navigate, facilitate, stakeholders to go to those services, but we're working with Lincolnshire Community Health Services. They are providing drop-in sessions in our children's centres already that these families can access, and they have access to translation support, etc. So we're comfortable that we will be able to continue to support speech, language and communication needs for all children.
Just to add, Councillor O, we also support all the settings, 600 plus settings across the county with speech and language through our early year specialist teachers. So that is the support that goes in there. So they're supported in lots of different settings, not just the family hubs and children's centres. So that is a support. They're also supported by health visiting with an ELIM, specific speech support for them. So we do support widely around speech and language, because we know that is definitely an area that we need to support our early years children with.
Do you want me to carry on? You answered one of the questions, so it's took it down to one more. Page 49, recommendations and next steps. Have we costed what it would be to put the next steps in place? That's the question. Then do you want me to just do my last bit, which isn't a question?
That's okay, carry on.
Carry on, okay. Obviously integration is important. I'm worried that this might be another step towards isolation of some people and produce areas of Lincolnshire where the residents don't feel part of the county. Finally, the report says other local authorities don't provide the services. Lincolnshire's children's services are held nationally in very high esteem, not because we follow, because we innovate and are leaders. I would hate for us to start being a follower. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Charlotte will add, I'm sure. So I think the thing is we have innovated in this area, Councillor Rowe. So I think that what we've done is we had a very bespoke standalone service, and then we've really developed our early years, we've really developed our children's centres, we've increased the uptake, we've increased the work with the settings, we've increased the work with the schools. And through that innovation, we're at a stage where we don't need a standalone service, because actually we can meet that need across our integrated services. So I do think this is about us. We should benchmark to others, and we always do benchmark to others. But I think what we're telling you through this paper is we're confident that the innovation we put in place, I mean, the speech and language hubs that are in our children's centres are incredible. The work they are doing to meet need early is fantastic. And when we have the session on the school's white paper and the SEND consultations, we'll talk to you about how we've tried to respond ahead of the game. And you're right, Councillor Rowe, we try really hard to look at national horizon scanning. So I think this is about the fact that we are catching up with that innovation that we've done, that integration that we've done, and we're making sure we don't have duplication, because we've had other areas of the council that have innovated as well, the translation services, so we're paying twice for the same thing in some areas that we need to address. So just to assure you, I'm really confident that our family hubs, our children's centres, and the offer that will remain through the proposals in here will be innovative, will be advanced. And in terms of the next steps, and again, Charlotte will correct me if I'm wrong, but they're all in place, they're all able for us to deliver within our current capacity, so there isn't any additional cost to those. The monitoring's already happening, as Nikki's explained. Monitoring's much more enhanced, so that we can monitor at that individual child level, their uptake, and we can do intervention where we need to. So hopefully that will reassure you. Thank you.
So, Madam, I did miss one question. Sorry, was you going to carry on with answering that? I missed one part. I can come back later on that.
That's okay, Councillor Rowe. If you want to carry on with it now, then we're going over to Councillor Corey afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Page 40, and I'm hoping this is just poor wording. The council still invests in services for children in their early years delivered in children's centres and family hubs, which services users can access. These services help ensure that children born in Lincolnshire are healthy babies, ready for school and achieve a good level of development. I'm very proudly very involved with my town council in the Forces Covenant. This reads that many of these Forces people that come into our county, which is widespread, especially in North Highcombe, we're not particularly bothered about their babies, because they weren't born in Lincolnshire. I know that that can't be true, but I would just like to think that that wording is a mistake and needs altering, because we support all the children and babies in our area, not just ones that are born here. Thank you.
Yeah, Yeah, Councillor, I mean, I wouldn't read that like that, and it's definitely not the intention. When we talk about babies born in Lincolnshire, we're talking generally about that population. We care about all children, and that's certainly not our intention, so we'll reflect on that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure many of you have been to the children's centres as well, the hubs, and that they're absolutely fantastic. I was blown away when I visited one recently. Councillor Corey, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and Councillor Rowe has preempted my question. I hear Sarah's presentation and Charlotte and Heather's responses. However, I'm still not convinced. I still have very grave concern on what the driver is behind this, because it's clearly not financial. We all remember fondly the full council of the 20th of February, which will go down in history. We increased council tax, and we have received a huge increase in our government grant. So it's clearly not financial, Chairman.
Sorry, Councillor Corey, we're not getting political here,
No,
are
no,
we,
no,
please?
no, I'm not.
Okay.
This is a question. I'm trying to find out.
Thank you.
This is about scrutiny. I'm addressing the chair.
Thank you.
This is a very important, effective, well-used, well-loved, well-subscribed service for vulnerable people who live in Lincolnshire. And I just want to know what the driver is, the real driver for removing this service, because what I've heard and what I've read, I still have concerns. Thank you, Chairman. I do have another point after this. Thank you, Chairman.
I think Heather's going to answer that one for us.
Thank you. So, Councillor Corey, we have reviewed all non-stat services as part of the budget setting process, and these recommendations and the recommendations in the report are the drivers for that decision. They're laid out there, and so in terms of this being non-political, you know, from an officer's point of view, the duplication in service, the advancement of the other services since this time, the ability to not make changes to other services which we think are delivering greater impact, and which are all set out in the report, are the drivers for it and are the reason for it. And I think, you know, in terms of the budget setting at full council, that debate has concluded, the budget's been set. So I don't know, in terms of it not being a political question, I guess I'm not sure how much further I can go in terms of the evidence that we've set out before you.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. So this is more of a statement along the lines of Councillor Rowe's statement. It makes me very uncomfortable, and I hope it doesn't set precedent that we are discriminating against people who were not born in Lincolnshire. I wasn't born in Lincolnshire, so I would, if I could, add my voice to Councillor Rowe's, that I would really like that sentence taking out, because although I'm not born in Lincolnshire, I'm a native English speaker, and that makes me feel really uncomfortable, that people who aren't born in Lincolnshire aren't welcome here. So if your first language isn't English, can we assure people that however they get here, when they get here, they're welcome, our services are open to them, and the contribution that they make to our county is valued. And let's remember, early money is like yeast, and that any support that we can give, and across the board, because there will be some people who access the services, and I appreciate that there will be duplication, but there will be other people who aren't aware that they can get these services elsewhere, and if they're cut, which this is a cut, they will fall through those gaps. And I feel desperately sorry for them, and this makes me feel uncomfortable. I hope it isn't a precedent. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Clory. Do you want to come in there, Heather?
Yeah, I just really want to clarify that point about babies born in Lincolnshire. Most of the babies with the ethnic minority families are born in Lincolnshire. It is not a point about the ethnicity of the babies. You've read the wording in a very different way to which it should say Lincolnshire's babies. Yeah, but I just want to be very clear in terms of this service, most of those are babies born in Lincolnshire. We have lots of babies born in Lincolnshire to ethnic minority families who benefit from all of our services. I think you've read it in a really different way, which I will reflect on, but I just want to be clear that that's officers' language and it's about how much we care about Lincolnshire's babies. And if we haven't made that clear, then we'll make sure we do that going forward. That language is absolutely not intended to be read in the way in which you've read it. It's about our commitment to Lincolnshire's babies.
Thank you for that, Heather. And I'd like to just say, you know, we have no discrimination against any of our babies, children that are born in this county at all. And perhaps that's just a little wording thing that needs to be looked at. Thank you. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you. And thank you for your comments, Heather. And I agree with the comments made about inclusion. I'm happy to back those up. What I'm not seeing in the report before us is any measurement of the need for this in the first place, or rather the level of need for it. There's no statistical base on which to know how much translation support is needed. I'm also slightly unclear on the use of the term ethnic minority, because to my mind, we're talking about linguistic minorities here, and we're talking about people who speak European languages. You know, most of which, apart from Russian and Ukrainian, are actually European EU country languages. And therefore, it begs the question in my mind, is being a non-English speaker a protected characteristic under the Equalities Act? Because clearly being an ethnic minority is, but I'm not sure. Can you tell me whether it's a protected characteristic, and therefore, in a sense, there is a statutory duty under the Equalities Act in terms of people who don't have English at all, or don't have English as a first or working language? So I'm finding it very difficult to pass a judgment on this specific service, because I'm not seeing anything that says how well used it is statistically, the number of people out there that might benefit from it, how many people there are out there that we know aren't benefiting from it who should be. I mean, the very first sentence almost is great. This is to encourage access to children's centres, with an inference that it's to bring people in through the door, not to help them once they're there. And I would throw the question back and say, you know, we know there are, I think, 80,000 people from the EU who have applied for or gained settled status. And they would obviously be the people that speak the languages listed here. Do we know that we're reaching out to all those people? Do we know what their needs are before we decide how we're going to move this pot of money around?
Yeah, I'll start. So in terms of from a protected characteristic perspective, then race is considered, is the protected characteristic in terms of its relation to this. I wanted to make it clear that the inclusion service, it isn't just for children and families who don't have English as their first language. The service is also, you'll see from the consultation and the feedback that we've had from service users, this is also for families who may come from ethnic minority backgrounds, but who are English speaking as well. And it's also, you know, and some of the sessions are there because bringing them together with, you know, their community and others and peers. But that will continue to happen through the early years and family service, as it does already. The service is made up of multiple different activities. So the main bulk of our commissioning intention is to identify families who may feel like who to access the early years and family service from a universal perspective. The translation element is actually only a very small part of what we commission. The main bit is around bringing families into the centres, letting them feel comfortable in there, and then continuing to use the early years activities that are already there. We've got evidence that that already happens outside of this service, and we know that we can continue to do that In terms of knowing who the families are and how do we know we're reaching everybody, so we know we have a, you know, Nikki will probably comment more on this, but we know who our early years children are in the county, and we know whether they're attending a childcare setting or not. We know because we have the universal health visiting service, which is provided by Lincolnshire County Council. So there may be some people who we don't, but the vast majority of children, we know who we are. And based on that information, we also know, I think the latest data is that 61% of children from an ethnic minority background in that early years cohort access our children's centre offer. Currently. I believe that's in the report. I don't know if I've answered your question in full because there was quite a lot in there, so please come back if you need a further answer on any of that.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I don't think you really answered my point about whether being a linguistic minority is a protected characteristic. You're saying no, it isn't. Okay.
Not explicitly.
Right, okay. Implicitly, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, but you can't be implicit in it. Sorry, shouldn't. I'm interested about the point that you say you know exactly about all children because you've got the universal nursing service that visits the visiting service that goes around everybody. Does that then pick up which children are not actually being brought up with English as their first language in the home? So that's the point at picking this up, isn't it?
So we know we've got around 6,000 births of babies a year. So through the health visiting service and the system 1, that talks to our systems. We know that we send out contact with them for antenatal visits. So we send out contacts all the way through. We pick up cohorts of children or areas through that data that we aren't seeing the footfall into a setting, or we're not seeing the footfall into a children's centre or family hub. So if they're a summer-born boy and they're not coming into the centre, or if they've got English as additional language, we pick up different cohorts across the system, so that cohort will also be included. So it's all of those cohorts, and we manage that system, and that's got more efficient, more effective over the last 2 years, hence why we've had our rise, and we've met all the corporate targets around footfall into settings and into children's centres and family hubs.
Thank you. Can I just add to that, Councillor Keever, as well? I think there are lots of different cohorts that we're concerned about and we're tracking. So we have children who, as you've said, speech and language doesn't develop well. We have children who are not attending settings who are not from ethnic minority families. So we have, I think that's what I'm trying to explain, is the processes we've got in place to pick up those concerns and do everything within our power about that we are doing, and we're seeing a real improvement around the uptake around those services. And I'm really confident that in terms of our statutory duties, we meet them all. We go beyond those statutory duties. Our family hubs offer is, fantastic. It's something that we should be really proud on, that we worked on for a long time, and we're building on, and the speech and language hubs are there. So for me, there are a whole groups of children we're worried about. This is about saying we're not going to have little bits of services. We're going to bring that together, and we're going to ensure that we've got an inclusive, accessible service. Thank you.
Thank you for that reassurance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Councillor Daesh, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 2 questions, so I'll do the first one first.
Yeah, please.
On page 49, the report mentions about the corporate translation and interpretation offer, which professionals could access instead. What assessment has been undertaken as whether there is a sufficient capacity within the corporate service to support these families and ensure that there will be no delay in accessing the support when required?
Thank you. We reviewed that contract last year. It's a call-off contract, so there's no limitation in terms of how much that we can use, and we monitor its usage over time. So I am confident that contract can meet demand, and where we might have a challenge around instant demand, which is not to do with this service, but it might be to do with safeguarding in the middle of the night, we have other options available to us that we can use. But in terms of this service, it has a wider range of languages available in it. It's monitored and it's reported through.
Thank you. My second question, it states that the robust communication plan will be developed to ensure clarity on what we're ceasing, what will be continued, and how ethnic minority children in their early years and their families can continue to access support. I think we've covered this a little bit. How will these messages to be communicated to these children and their families?
Thank you. So we have a communication plan that has been drafted subject to the recommended decision being taken in terms of preparing for any messaging that would need to be shared as early as possible to prepare families. Within that draft plan, it clearly identifies, first of all, who needs to be informed about any change that's taking place. That includes families that access the service, families who, where there may be a pregnancy at the moment, who will be looking at what services would be available when their child is born, midwives, GPs. There's a whole range of stakeholders identified who we know that we want to communicate with. Now, we know that that will be a range of methods. Some of that will be targeted direct communication, either written, meetings, telephone, etc. Some of that will be through social media and other forms as well. It will be focused on what's changing, but also making it really clear about what is still available. And we do an awful lot of communication and promotion around the early years services the family hubs offer. And we will be making sure that, as we already do, that is translated into appropriate and a variety of languages so that families can understand what's available for them. So that plan is drafted, but obviously it's subject to a decision being taken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dash.
Just one more. Is there a safety net if some of these children drop out, or you don't get, when you've sent out all the information, they don't get back to you? What do you do in that?
Sorry. So we will know through our work. So we will work with the current provider to understand where where there are individual children and families, particularly those where they may have some concerns. And we will be working with them around a transition plan to look at what the early years and family service may be able to do would be able to do, and encouraging them to come in to the other universal sessions, which is already happening now. So we'll be able to track and monitor, as we do now, who's been attending and who's not coming anymore. And so we're confident that we've got the means by which to understand which families we would need to target.
But we should say it's voluntary.
It's not.
We should be really clear here. Some families choose not to send their child to nursery and to keep their child at home with them. Some choose not to want to take part in children's centres and use private playgroups, use church playgroups. So I think one of the things we have to be clear about is we have a really rich offer. We make sure we communicate that well. But some families choose that that's not what they want, and some families have their own groups, and I just think we need to be clear on that. And some families choose not to send their children to school and to electively home educate them. And so all of this along the way is about encouragement, having an offer, nudging families. Where we have concerns, our intervention capabilities are really different.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's more like a comment. I agree with the comments made by fellow councillors with concerns over this. I do notice that on page 40 it says statutory service given its financial position. It's already been said this council has more money than it has before, but still we're cutting services. I'm just wondering how many times is the council going to hide behind it's not statutory service?
Okay,
Thank you.
Councillor Clark, who would you like this question to? But we're not going to go political here, please. Thank you. Did you want to come in, Sandy?
I think Councillor Clark's right. It's a comment to log. What I would say as well is we have got more pressures than we've had before as well. So I think that you know the without going into any kind of politics, I think we the budget setting process was a challenging one. But I think Councillor Clark's right. It's a comment, and we can log it.
Thank you, Councillor Clark, for that comment as well. Thank you. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to clarify, just to put this one to bed, we had cost pressures of over 80 million. The additional funding from government was 36 million. So that leaves 44 million still to find. So I think that just clarifies this whole extra funding situation that we keep hearing from councillors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just a bit concerned that every time a comment is made, either in favour or against a decision or a budget decision, it's been interpreted as political. It's not. The decisions are made and we either support them or we don't, and to be able to comment on them is part of the scrutiny process.
Thank you for that, Councillor. I'll take that on board. Thank you.
Just to follow up, I hope this isn't a thin end of a wedge, that we're being told what we can say and what we can't say, and what we can ask and what we can't ask. You know, I note the Member Services Manager, Democratic Services, my eyes are going, apologies. I know what your statement was at the beginning of this, but we are here to scrutinise, and some of these will be officer decisions and some of these will be political decisions, and as politicians, we should be able to scrutinise and question political decisions. And I don't appreciate being told that I can't ask political questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corey. Your remarks have been noted. Thank you very much. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want somewhat clarifying, but before I ask that, I'd just like to say that I believe all babies and children should be taught and learnt together in the same environment. I don't believe we should be doing it separately. But can you just give me clarification that this is a duplicate service? Thank you.
There definitely are synergies between the services and what how we've developed over the last few years, particularly with family hubs. So we're offering a lot more inclusive service for all children. As we've said, we know who these children are. We're able to target different cohorts of children. And then, as Heather said, it's a voluntary. It's up to them whether they want to come to their setting or come to their family hub or children's centre. But yes, our participation has gone up by all cohorts of children. So we are getting to all those children across Lincolnshire. So it is best, as you say, all children together to be educated, to have fun, for parents to be with their different peers. So yes, I have every confidence in that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, Nikki. It was only to further add for clarity. So when we first commissioned the Best Start Lincolnshire Inclusion Service, we've had a wonderful children's centre offer for a long time. We've been really, really lucky in Lincolnshire with that position. Family hubs has enabled us to build on that. So we've got a really, really rich offer. And at the time when we first commissioned this service, that offer wasn't as extensive as it is now. And so the purpose of the service when we first commissioned it was to make sure that we bridged the gap between some communities being able to access our early years services, but we feel that we're at a point now where we don't need a separate service to do that. We have services already that are fully inclusive and ways to outreach to these families and support them. The translation element, we believe, is a duplication. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I fully support the recommendations.
Thank you very much. Any more questions at all, please? Okay. So that concludes the... Oh, sorry. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Sorry, I was going to ask that as part of your motion at the end, that we include a request to review the replacement service or whatever's happened with the money in a year's time, please.
Review it in a year's time, you say. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank
Any
you,
more
thank you, Chair. So just you know, to be clear, we can review the early years offer. There isn't a replacement service proposed in here, so we can definitely bring an early years report and look at that.
Thank you very much, Heather.
In which case, can we consider that when we do the work programme at the end, in that case, instead of putting anything into your proposal now? Is that okay? Thank you.
Thank you, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your comments and for the discussion there. That ends that discussion on this item. I propose that the committee has considered the report to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services and that a summary of our comments, as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer, be shared with the Executive Councillor for their consideration. And Heather, I believe you're going to look at the wording of the report there, please, because I think maybe there's a little bit misunderstanding with how some of it is worded, because we don't want any misunderstanding, because you do an excellent job. Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Brooks. We will now vote on this item. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And all those against, please.
I'd like my vote recording, please. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. And any abstentions, please? Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Thank you. That's carried then. Thank you very much. Right, I think we're ready for a comfort break. So if we can adjourn again at 20 past, please. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone back. Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda, grant funding to Lincolnshire Council for voluntary youth services. This item is on pages 85 to 126 of the agenda pack and is for the committee to consider the key findings from the review of the grant funding for the LCVYS and the recommended funding options from the 1st of April 2026. The report is due for consideration by Executive Councillor for Children's Services between the 23rd and the 27th of March 2026. The views of the committee will be reported to the Executive Councillor ahead of their decision. The report will be presented by Sarah Gregory, Commissioning Manager, Children's Services. We also have Charlotte Gray, Head of Service, Children's Strategic Commissioning, and David Sampfer, Practice Supervisor, Future for Me, Children's Services, in attendance to help answer any questions. And over to you then, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So this report summarises the review of the Council's non-statutory £100,000 annual grant to the Lincolnshire Council for Voluntary Youth Services, also called LICVIS. The current grant funding ends on the 31st of March this year. The review has taken place because the grant is funded from one-off children's services reserves with no identified recurrent budget. To continue the grant would be a further cost pressure to the Council. Given the Council's challenging financial position, the Council must prioritise its statutory provision, and so the future of this grant has been considered and consulted on. It is important to just highlight that the recommendation relates to the grant to LICVIS and not the wider youth services. The Council has funded LICVIS, has provided grant funding to LICVIS since 2011, and only LICVIS members benefit from the grant. This does not include the wider youth sector that are non-members. One of the grant purposes was to support LICVIS while they became self-sustainable without continued reliance on the Council's funding. This has not been achieved. The current LICVIS grant supports running and the administrative costs of LICVIS, training and networking for youth organisations that are members of LICVIS, youth development activities and events such as creative writing competitions, volunteering and young leaders awards, again for LICVIS members, and small grants to member organisations administered by LICVIS. This accounts for around £20,000 to £30,000 per annum, so around 20 to 30% of the grant. The Council must secure access to sufficient leisure time activities for young people, but there is no statutory requirement to fund any specific organisation, grant scheme or youth infrastructure body. The Council already funds a range of other youth services, including the Future for Me community intervention team, delivering around 74 open access sessions each week and supporting over 2,000 young people this year through youth work, sports group work and targeted interventions. There's the holiday activities and food programme with over 70 local providers, including voluntary sector. Targeted positive activities, including youth clubs and holiday clubs for children with a disability, and school and community-based mental health and support such as Healthy Minds Lincolnshire. A council infrastructure grant is also given to the Children and Young People's Voluntary Sector Forum, which includes youth organisations, many of whom are not reliant on LICVIS funding. The Council is committed to increasing funding for youth services in line with the Government's Youth Matters, Your National Youth Strategy, which commits to £500 million investment nationally over 4 years. We understand that some funding will go directly to the sector locally, and the Council will develop a clear strategy for investing locally with any funding it receives. We've not known yet around any further announcements, but we're hoping to hear something later, at some point this year. So public and stakeholder consultation. As outlined in the report, public and stakeholder consultation surveys have been undertaken to help inform the review. This attracted 158 responses, and a summary of the responses are included within the report, as well as more detail within the accompanying appendix. Over half of the responses had not accessed LICVIS or its member organisations. Public respondents prioritise signposting young people to local youth opportunities, ensuring organisations are signposted to funding opportunities and access to training and networks. Stakeholders who responded were primarily LICVIS member organisations, and they prioritised funding for small grants, training and network opportunities, and supporting with identifying funding opportunities available. Continuing to fund a council for voluntary youth services was not one of the top 3 highest priorities for public respondents or stakeholders. Feedback does recognise the value of the grant, particularly around the small grants made available to LICVIS member organisations and the training and network opportunities. 72% of public respondents and 81% of stakeholder respondents believed ending or reducing the grant would impact on youth organisations. However, it is important to just re-emphasise that this grant benefits LICVIS members only and not the whole youth sector. The findings from the consultation surveys have helped to inform the equality impact analysis, which is and includes mitigations, which is accompanied as a separate appendix. And as I say, those in mitigations should funding cease. The review also considered whether the continued use of a grant remained appropriate. As this is not a contract for services, we do require LICVIS. We do not require LICVIS to provide the level of performance data that the council would want to understand should there be any future investment. Legal advice is that an appropriate compliant procedure route on the open market would be needed and not a grant. Recommended option is outlined in the report that recommends that the council allows the LICVIS grant to end on the 31st of March this year. This option reflects the non-statutory nature of the grant, supports financial sustainability given the reliance on one-off reserves, aligns with the need to prioritise statutory services, but recognises that mitigations exist to support youth provision if the grant ends. This includes the support that will continue to be available in Lincolnshire, as well as the opportunities that are anticipated to become available through the government's National Youth Strategy. So in conclusion, although the recommendation is to cease the grant funding to LICVIS, the council remains committed to investing in young people, supporting positive activities for young people, continuing to work with our voluntary community and faith social enterprise sector, as well as responding to national funding opportunities, whilst also delivering statutory duties and supporting wider early help provision. For the reasons outlined in the report, the recommendation to cease the grant is considered reasonable. It ensures the council uses its resources responsibly while continuing to provide meaningful support for young people across the county. It also takes into consideration the future opportunities that are anticipated to come through the National Youth Strategy, further detail of which, as I say, is yet to be released. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for that report. Right, do we have any comments or questions, please? We have Councillor Smith first, please.
Thank you, Chair. You stated that they had the grant since 2011, but the original grant was given to them so that they could become self-funding and to set up their own organisations and to become self-sustaining. So in all those years, have they not progressed to become self-sustaining? And are they still just relying on the grant that we give them? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's certainly been an objective of the grant over more recent years that they work towards self-sustainability. Part of that, part of what we've been working with them on is around their training offer, and some of those training sessions are chargeable and generate income, as well as them seeking other financial contributions through bidding for other funding. We've been on, I say we, they've been unable to secure additional funding to the full effect of the grant that the council provides. However, it sets out in the report there are some grant contributions or some contributions that they've got from other funding bodies that go towards this. I think it's about the value of £20,000 for this year, off the top of my head, maybe just under, but not to cover the full value.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you. I'm concerned at reading this, and I am happy to concede that this money isn't being targeted, possibly, in the best way. But that brings me to the point about the people to whom it isn't targeted that maybe need support, and not just with this particular 100,000 through this particular organisation, but across the board generally. I'm very concerned that our young people who need support and development outside school, outside of the home environment, who don't want to wear a uniform, don't want to sign up to an organisational agenda, be it a religious organisation or otherwise. They just need support in a safe environment from adults outside school hours, and we're not giving them the support that they need. And if you could reassure me that this £100,000 is going to do more for them, I would be happy to support the recommendations in this report.
Yes, please, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Cleaver. And I share your concerns, and I think that Councillor Oliver has been really clear around her concerns around youth provision. And so this money isn't there, it's paid for from reserve. So I just want to be really transparent about that. However, I think there is a proposal for, a request that we develop a much more holistic youth strategy that targets everybody, and that is brought through this committee for scrutiny. So the launch of the National Youth Strategy gives us that kind of opportunity, because there will be some funding that flows through direct to providers and through to the council, we think, although the details are yet to be clarified. But I think that I would agree with you. I think it's fair to say it's a difficult time to be an adolescent. I think it's a difficult period in our history to be an adolescent, and I think that we need to do more for adolescents in Lincolnshire. So this grant can't continue as it is for various reasons around the procurement. The funding isn't in the budget going forward. But what I can reassure you is we've been given a steer to bring that youth strategy through this committee, to have that scrutiny on it, and also to work with people like Lickfist, but also those organisations that sit outside that aren't the uniformed youth services, those that are the uniformed, because some children love to wear the uniform, and we know that our young cadets, is really popular. So what we've got is a commitment to bring those partners round the table and to develop a strategy that you can scrutinise. I think it will be, I'm hopeful that it will be more than the 100,000, I think, and it will be sustainable. So I think that this is something we have to deal with now because of where we are in the process. But I think there is an ambition, and I'm hoping that when we bring that youth strategy through, it'll be something that we can all be excited about.
Just quickly then, do we have a timescale on that, please?
As soon as possible is what I've been told.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pretty similar to Councillor Cleaver, really. I'm a little bit concerned. We spent, £1.5 million for 15 years on this service, and it's for a membership benefit. So it is really concerning for me. So, yeah, I'm supporting the recommendations. I am hoping that Councillor Oliver wants to improve our youth services and our youth centres, because we have got a few that need a little TLC. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that a question to anyone in particular, Councillor? Okay, thank you. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you. Just from my sort of view, I feel that youth services have been neglected for a long time. And just a general question, just can you confirm how long it has actually been since we've had a youth strategy at Lincolnshire County Council?
I'll take that one, thank you. It is quite a while. It's over 10 years since we've had a strategy in relation to young people. Dave, who's in the room from our Adolescent Service Future for Me, does a fantastic job with a relatively limited resource. So I think this Councillor Oliver's request to have a new strategy is really very much welcomed, and Dave is very excited to crack on with it.
That's welcomed by myself as well. Thank you.
Did David want to come in at all on that one at all?
Just to say, I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth into the new strategy and just ensuring we've got high quality youth provision for adolescents across the county.
Thank you very much for those comments. Thank you. Councillor Corey, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome news, indeed, about the youth strategy. Does that not make this paper then a little bit premature? Should we not wait? You know, I don't disagree, well, maybe, with many of the comments made, but because we all want to make sure that things are targeted in the right place and that we're using public money, so it has to be spent in the right way for maximum effect. Also, we've heard that this money was like seed funded. There's some funding in 2011. Please develop a sustainable business model. What support did we give them to help them develop a sustainable model that didn't work? So I think there are two questions in there. I've sneaked a second one in
there.
Okay,
who would you like that addressed to, please?
Whoever wants to jump on it, really.
Okay, thank you.
If I start, and then we'll come into the what support we gave them. So that this contract's coming to its natural end. So we have to make a decision either way. The procurement rules have changed, so we can't just award it as we have done historically. So we were going to have to do something different anyway, which would have involved putting this contract out and having bids. And what we don't want to do is do that and then in 3 months' time be changing the provision. So I think it's timely because it allows us to bring everything together and to move forward in that way. In terms of the support that we gave to Lickfus, I'll pass to Charlotte probably.
Yeah, no, that's fine, thank you. So as a commissioned provider, obviously noting that this is a grant for services and not a contract for services. So with grants for services, we have to be relatively light touch in our approach because otherwise we'll fall foul of procurement regulations. It should be a contract for services in terms of our intensive monitoring. However, we have an assigned commissioning officer who, amongst many other contracts, they do support Lickfus in terms of monitoring what's going on with the grant and offering their support. But what I would say is, Lickfus also benefit from being a member of the Children and Young People's Voluntary Sector Forum as well. They also benefit from the Lincolnshire Community and Voluntary Partnership. We have a number of sector-led groups within the council where organisations can learn about a variety of funding opportunities that they can bid for. I recall in the past us doing work with the Voluntary Sector Forum around bid writing, responding, strengthening specific responses to specifications, etc. So I feel as though we've done, we have supported the organisation, but equally the purpose of the grant is very much for the organisation to also support itself too, which, and I would like to make this point really clear. This is You know, they are, you know, they've been, a lot of the organisations that are provided a grant, they're very valuable organisations. We all know that. And LICVIS themselves have attracted some funding, just not to the extent that we would have hoped to be able to cover the full grant value.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Councillor Daesh, please.
Thank you, Chair. It mentions that the council will consider expectations on the local authorities following further forthcoming government announcements on funding for youth matters and a strategy. Has there been any indication from the government as to when this will likely be received? I think we covered it slightly, but is it soon?
Just to give you an update, nationally there's been lots of webinars, information sharing and briefings going on, and over the next couple of months there'll be a national roadshow of workshops which will begin to unpick what the strategy actually means and how it will be sort of delivered on. So as we go through that process, I dare say the detail and what it means for us will become a little bit more clearer. But until we've been in attendance to the roadshows and worked through that with sort of national youth agencies and national organisations, the dates and the exact detail are not there at the minute.
Can I just add to that as well, just to say that we won't be waiting for all of that to be finalised to bring that strategy forward. We'll be making proposals for you to consider, mindful of that, but we will be thinking about Lincolnshire and Lincolnshire's adolescents first.
Thank you. Councillor Daesh.
The continuity of the workshops, will that be dependent on the grants given if we don't use those within the workshops that are provided? So if, for instance, they show you there's several different subjects to take on, and as a council we don't take it on, do we lose all the grants?
I think that's the bit we need to look at all of the detail. I think we need to make sure that we've understood all of the grant funding requirements, and to be honest, I don't see why we wouldn't meet those grant funding requirements. We always maximise every grant that's given for Lincolnshire's children and young people and make sure we do comply. But I think there's that kind of ambition to go beyond just what's required, and to look at, you know, how can we have a youth strategy that is ambitious for our adolescents.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. On your report, you said the public response. On that public response, how many of the responders were you actually classed as youths?
Bear with us one moment. It's in the equality impact assessment, but we just need to turn to that page.
I think it was less than 7%, Councillor Clark. I think lots of them were parents of young people, but I think half of them were. Go on.
Oh, it is now. We had one young person who was under the age of 18 and 5 young people who were aged 18 to 25, and we had 8 people who preferred not to say, so we obviously don't know if they were young people.
Yeah, all I'm trying to point out is that if it doesn't affect you, you're not going to want it, are you? You're going to say no. But anyway, carrying on, my second question is, you must have been in consultation with the organisation. What have they actually said the impact will be on them?
So we have been in consultation with the organisation. They've been invited to respond to the consultation that's been shared with a variety of different stakeholders. So their views are included within the consultation responses. So I think in terms of the key priorities that are aligned to the other stakeholder priorities, which was they valued the small grants programme, and the networking and training opportunities were something that they valued as well. I mean, I think obviously the organisation itself will be concerned about this. I think it's fair to say. But we have consulted with them. We've also ensured that member organisations have been consulted with, and all of their responses are included in the consultation findings that have been presented.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions, Councillor Hume? Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm a bit torn with this. Anything that cuts support for young people, especially at this time, is difficult to take on board. Cape Tomorrow comes to mind. The government are going to, and we're going to, have a lot more faith in we're going to than government's going to. I've been involved with Future for Me, which I think is an excellent organisation and just a joy to be involved with. I do have reservations about us giving grant money to an organisation to give grant money to somebody else. That, to me, seems just a little bit difficult. Also, that the services are only to the LICVIS members that have it, and probably 12 years, of which I admit we were part of that time. Giving that money is probably long enough to be able to become self-sustaining. So a little bit torn, not sure which way I'm going to go with this. No real question, just those comments. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Rowe. Any other questions, please? Okay, so that concludes your questions and comments on this item. Suggested proposal. I propose that the committee has considered the report to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services, and that a summary of our comments as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer be shared with the Executive Councillor for their organisation. Right, can I please have a seconder for that then, please? Okay, thank you. We will now vote on this item. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Any absences, please? Thank you. That's been noted. Thank you. That's carried. That's carried. Thank you. Item 8 on the agenda: service level performance reporting against the performance framework 25-26 as at Q3. This item is on pages 127 to 138 of the agenda pack and provides a summary of the service level performance against the performance framework 25-26 for children's services and the culture service as of at Q3. The committee is asked to review and comment on the performance. The report will be presented by Joe Kavanagh, Assistant Director, Early Help for the Children's Services Performance Measures on pages 128 to 133, and by Nicola Hilton, Assistant Director, Communities and Deputy Director, Place for the Culture Services Performance Measures on pages 134 to 137. Over to you, Joe and Nicola. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll start with the children's performance. So I'll take you through the key areas of performance for Q3. You will have read the report, and I've just lost it on my screen. Apologies. How did I do that? Just to say, our performance this quarter remains really positive. So 5 measures have exceeded their target, 4 have achieved target, and 2 haven't met our current targets. So going through those briefly, our adoption timeliness continues to improve. The average time taken to move a child from care into an adoptive family is now 475 days, ahead of the 520-day target. And this is despite the fact that there is a national shortage at the moment of adopters. And the time taken to match a child to an adoptive family stands at 155 days, also within the 170-day target, which again really reflects our absolute commitment to place children with their adoptive families at the very earliest opportunity. We have two measures that don't meet our current targets, and I think we had this discussion the last time this report came to committee around the need for us to revise our targets given the changes that have happened nationally in terms of demand on services, but also in terms of performance against our comparators. So at the moment, the revised targets will take into account those national and regional statistic performance, although remain stretching for us, will reflect that changed position. We have a really strong focus on prevention, and wherever it is safe and appropriate to do so, we want our children to remain with their families. And in addition, as circumstances change, we work really hard to exit our children from care. And you'll be really pleased to see that our new reunification team is strengthening that support so that even more children can return to their families once they've had a period in care, and again when it's safe to do so. But at the moment, the rate of our children in care is 57.3 per 10,000 against a target of 51.9. So although we are performing really well comparatively, it's still outside our target. In relation to children subject to a child protection plan, again, this is at 466 against a target of 380. You can see from the benchmarking data that we do perform really strongly, and these are some of our most vulnerable children who are at risk of significant harm. And if circumstances don't change, then there is the strong possibility they could become children in care in the future. In terms of participation and learning, for our 16 and 17-year-old children in care, this is at 88% and showing some improvement. There are always changes in this cohort of children each quarter, because there will be young people that will be entering care potentially for the first time in that period. Some will leave care or reach the age of 18 and so drop out of that cohort. But you can see in the narrative provided by the virtual school, who work with every child in care around their education, training and employment. They know every single child within that cohort, and at an individual level they track their progress. And so the reasons why young people are not accessing education, training and employment are set out within the narrative. Some face barriers such as having to move placements, which then disrupts their education or employment, and it may be that they're experiencing mental health difficulties, etc. But it's really positive to see that there is the support from the newly developed aspiration coaches, who are really supporting re-engagement with those young people in this cohort who face the biggest challenges. In terms of our care leavers in suitable accommodation, it stands at 93.1, so it's very close and within tolerance around our target of 95%. And despite some national housing pressures, we've again, being able to secure suitable accommodation for overwhelmingly the majority of this cohort. Again, the Leaving Care Service tracks the progress of every individual young person, and the low numbers that are not in suitable accommodation include those that are in custody, and for some young people who don't want to or choose not to engage in the support that's available to them. Okay, I don't know if you want to take questions now and then move on to Nicole.
Thank you. I must apologise. I think I said Nicole. Nicole, sorry. Did you want to come in there at all?
Thank you very much. I have the joy of bringing this scrutiny paper to an end with some spectacular performance figures. Sorry. And I think it would be really easy when you look through our target measures and the little gold stars that go alongside every single measure we have, to think that we simply just need more targets or higher targets. But I think that would then miss the point and do a disservice to the spectacular work that the cultural services team do to deliver on these service measures, what they do. And so that extraordinary performance can be seen and evidenced with a nearly 33% increase on engagement compared to this time last year. And they do that by constantly updating the content, by innovating and giving the public more reasons to keep coming back to our sites, to see more things, to learn more and to do more. And that takes an incredible sustained effort. So these targets look like we are surpassing them easily, which of course we are, but it requires a tremendous amount of effort and work and imagination from those staff to keep delivering on that. We saw some impressive spikes in our engagement, particularly when the announcement were made about the Castle concerts, and we've got an extended programme this year, so I hope you've all bought your tickets, and we'll be in the mosh pit at the front of the Castle concerts. We also saw the best Castle illuminated Christmas season that we've had, so we continue to build upon that year upon year. Again, we're able to deliver that with more content and more things for people to see, and more of those joyous selfie moments, which I know you all engage with. With our libraries, again, we continue to see visits to libraries are surpassing the target. I think that's a wonderful thing to see. It shows that our libraries are still fully embedded in our communities. They are meaningful places for our residents to go and learn and utilise, not just for books, but all kinds of community content. And they are really important because they are a safe place in order for people to get accurate advice. And a lot of our staff spend time guiding and advising people on being able to access services and enhance and engage their own learning. Our community libraries continue to be a nationally renowned model, and so we are still pleased that all of our community libraries still continue to exist, still continue to thrive, still continue to expand, and all run by volunteers. So I think that is a credit to our to Lincolnshire and Lincolnshire's residents. Again, we saw a highlight with the Get the Nation Learning Week in November. We've just had National Book Day, and this is also the year of reading. And so we are going to be making a committed push in order to highlight that, both in our standard tier libraries, but also in our community hubs. So we're really excited about that. And then the visitor feedback. So this is our qualitative measure, which in many ways is the most important to us. So rather than just counting how many people visit, this is about what the experience felt like to people. Would they come back? Would they recommend us to their friends? Will they bring family members? Are they going to talk about it on social media sites so that we can draw in international as well as national visitors? And you will see that 100% said that their experience was good or very good. Given the number of visitors that we get passing through our doors, that is an outstanding response for us, an outstanding result, that all of our visitors had a good or very good experience. So that, again, is a credit to us. We're still obviously recognising that those people who choose not to complete those visitor surveys, how do we capture those individuals, and does that mean that those people that had an awful time are simply not telling us? The chances are we'll know about that because they will tell us, and we will then engage in that. But obviously, other than the occasional unhappy individual, which is usually about something very specific as opposed to a more generic complaint, we feed back to them immediately in order to be able to resolve that, because our reputation is everything for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jo, and thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite members of the committee to speak on this item. Councillor Hume, do we have any speakers, please? Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to put on my corporate parenting hat, so my question's to Jo. On page 130, it's stated that the children who are subject to a child protection plan, there's been a number of large sibling groups becoming subject to the plan. Roughly what percentage of the 466 children are from large sibling groups? And could more information be included in the summary about the number of families involved to provide some context to this number, as surely these groups of children must be adding extra pressure to the service? Thank you.
Thank you. The ability to pull data around family groupings is slightly complicated around stepchildren and just the way that the system is arranged. But absolutely, I did expect that you might ask a question like that. So I can tell you that of the 469 children on a plan, that is made up of 221 families. And 31%, which is 146 of the children, are part of a sibling group where there is 4 or more children. There is a little challenge in breaking everything down into lots of detail because, for example, if we were to have one family that had 9 children, you may be able to identify who they were. So that's why it's done in the way that it's done. That makes sense.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Corey, please.
I was just writing my comment. Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to restrict my comments to culture services, and I just want to sing your praises. And it's, without getting emotional, it's an amazing thing that you do. You've been through turbulent times with difficult budgets, but you've pulled it out of the hat again. Thank you so much for everything you do for the county. And even though many people in Lincolnshire don't use your services because we're a very rural county and it tends to be in the greater Lincoln area, but what you do is amazing. Archives is really difficult. You've still got challenges. The castle that we've heard about, castle illuminated at Christmas, from very small beginnings, it's growing. Thank you for everything you do on that. The castle concerts, it brings people from all over the country, puts Lincoln on the map in a way that we wanted it to do after City of Lincoln Council pulled the funding and support for the Lincoln Christmas Market. You do an amazing job, and I'm going to come to libraries. Oh my word. What a brilliant job they're doing, and I'm absolutely thrilled that Greenwich Leisure are our delivery partners again for that, because the innovation and the heart they put into the library service. We've got our core libraries, but then the volunteers, and the voluntary support that our libraries are getting and the life that they put into our little villages, it's brilliant. So please accept my heartfelt, genuine thanks and pass it on to the rest of the team, because you're fabulous. Thank you. Nicole, Will.
I think we all have to agree with that. Thank you for the marvellous work you're doing. Thank you. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First off, I'd like to thank Councillor Smith for giving me the opportunity to talk about corporate parenting. I'm so pleased that she's wearing a corporate parenting hat. And just to remind everybody when they're in other scrutiny committees, because I think we probably all understand it here quite well, that they should wear a corporate parenting hat, and that includes my colleagues listening online. Nicole, just one thing I want to disagree with you about. I've been in sales and marketing all my life, and I believe that when a target is being massively beaten, it is important that you increase that target, because that keeps the focus on that area. I don't think it devalues the success of your people. I think it actually recognises it in a sort of weird way. We're putting it up because they've done such a great job, but I think it's important that, as I say, we keep putting them up, and we keep pushing people, and we keep pushing the organisation to get better, which is, I know, where we all want to be. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to concur with Councillor Corey and Councillor Rowe, absolutely. It's it's fantastic that you're getting the target for 475 days. You know, it's really great, but it does make me a little sad because obviously that's like over a year and a half before they actually get to the adopted family. So if anybody's listening online and you want to adopt, please contact us. My question is it court proceedings that is delaying this, or is there something else that maybe we could just divvy up slightly? Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We do everything we possibly can to ensure that children are matched as soon as possible. And for some children, that will be really quickly. And we do have foster carers that are foster to adopt. So babies can be placed and younger children can be placed with our foster carers who then go on to become adopters. For some of the children where it takes a little bit longer, that could be to do with the court proceedings. It could be because there's a change of plan for that child. So there are a whole variety of different reasons, but we do, so there could be a small number of children who take longer that are having an impact on that timeliness figure, if that makes sense. But yeah, we do everything we absolutely can to make sure children are placed as soon as they can be.
Thank you. If you can get it down to a year, that'll be fantastic.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you, and I echo the congratulations of colleagues in the room. But with my normal statistical scrutiny hat on, obviously there's no comparators to anywhere else, in particular the library. And we know that Greenwich actually manage 115 libraries across the country. So it would be interesting, if you wouldn't mind, if we could see, next time this comes to us, some comparisons with the other libraries that they run, and any other comparators that we've got nationally with statistical neighbours or the rest of England, just to validate the figures that we put forward. That seems to be a logical thing to me. Thank you.
Sorry, can I come back on that? I think you make a really good point there, Councillor Cleaver, and absolutely that comparison I think will be a really good exercise for us to do, and we'll ensure that happens.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just on libraries, really, you know, how well they're doing, and I'm pleased they're doing well, because under the last administration, most of them was put to the sword. But they are coming back now, and I do appreciate the fact, you know, and people do appreciate the fact that libraries are open.
Thank you very much. Councillor Daesh.
It's for culture, Nicole. When we talk about targets, I just think the continuity next year should be looking back of what we've got here. So if it's plus 100%, that's got to be far better than calculating a target that we can't meet.
So yeah, thank you. I think where I was trying to say is that I absolutely know and accept that our quantitative measures are really important to us. I absolutely get and accept that. I absolutely get and accept that we are exceeding, so we should always be challenging ourselves and stretching ourselves. I think where I was trying to come from is that if we only focus on the fact that we're exceeding them, sometimes we forget to acknowledge the work that goes on behind how it is that we are exceeding them. So, but having said that, you know, absolutely, in the new set of measures that we will be refining, we will be setting ourselves new targets.
Yes, Will.
Thank you. If I could add to that as well, that if you look at the year-on-year performance within the report, you can see some of that kind of growth over the years as well. There was a period where we had to fight really hard for that in the post-COVID period, but I think you can see where there is that growth. So I agree, there's a couple of references to it in the report where we talk about being 6% up on the previous year. I think in many ways there is a more useful comparator. Equally, I think Nicole's right that sometimes performance is affected by conditions outside of our control, and we are very conscious that we don't want to have targets that if we don't meet, staff can feel demotivated.
In terms of comparisons as well, one of the things we always try to talk about when we talk about our heritage sites is other performance indicators. And the ones that often matter the most are things like TripAdvisor. Because if people are looking to go to a heritage attraction, they look on TripAdvisor. They won't look on the county council's performance targets, they'll look on TripAdvisor. And that is an area where we constantly knock it out of the park. We're constantly getting the closest scores to maximum you can get. Lincoln Castle has on numerous occasions, including this last year, won its gold accolade, which is Visit England's highest standard that can be achieved as well. So I think we need to make sure that we look at the ways that we judge our performance outside of these numbers as well. But you're absolutely right, year on year is a really important way to look at things as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Dash. All right, thank you. Councillor Corey, please.
Yeah, just a quick opportunity for Nicole or Will just to respond to the comment that Councillor Clark made about the revolutionary change that the library service experienced many years ago, and there'll be some members who weren't around at the time and probably don't know what Councillor Clark was referring to. So just very quickly, with your indulgence, Chairman, can you just explain what Councillor Clark meant and the fact that we've got the core libraries, which are our statutory function, and then we've got the voluntary libraries, and what actually happened there and what the service has continued to do? Maybe bringing an example of Deeping's library, Bracebridge Library.
I'm happy to. I think I see both sides of this. There was a budget-driven change to the library service over 10 years ago. What came out of that is the new model, which is the core libraries that are operated by GLL, and those amazing libraries that you've referenced that are run by volunteers, run by parish councils, that sit within the heart of our communities and deliver what those communities need most. That model has become a national standard of best practice. The Bracebridge Heath one you're referencing was Bracebridge, not Bracebridge Heath, which is also a wonderful one as well. I think you're very close to Bracebridge, aren't you? That was recently referenced in a report from central government by Baroness Sanderson. I think it was as her favourite library that she'd ever visited. Deeping's is another good example, but there isn't a bad example, to be honest, when it comes to the 34 hubs. It's something that could not literally be run better. It may have come out as something that was a negative, and I think that's perhaps where the point was coming from, but what we have now is just fabulous.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, please.
The library in Bootham that I represent used to be open daily. Now it's only open 2 days a week. It's good 2 days a week, it is, when it is open. But the point I was making, the service we're getting now is below what we did get.
I think that's quite difficult to judge. I think you're absolutely right. Some of the hubs don't have the opening hours that they had when they were operated by LCC staff over 10 years ago. Equally, I think the services that are delivered in those hubs, which varies massively, on almost all occasions, I would say, is better. I completely acknowledge that that does vary. The delivery model for Bootham, which is run by the same organiser as Birchwood, is a very different model to Bracebridge or Bracebridge Heath. Bracebridge is one that is run in conjunction with the parish council. Bracebridge Heath is one where we've just moved it in with an adult care centre that is absolutely fantastic. So it does vary, but I think what I would argue is it's very demand-led now. So do any of us know whether or not those hours over 10 years ago would still be needed now? I don't know. What I can tell is that I'm not being inundated with people saying, I can't get into my library because it's not open. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Oliver, I think you wanted to make some comment, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've heard some lovely comments about the services, and I know I'm biased, but I definitely feel that I've got the two best portfolios. And I just wanted to extend my thanks to everybody that's involved with the services, right from the senior leadership team, ADs, heads of service, and everybody else. But I just want to give a big nod to our children's services, our foster carers, our adoptive parents, our kinship carers, people that have opened their homes up for supported accommodation, and then for culture, our incredible volunteers. You know, without them, it just wouldn't be the service that it is. So I just wanted to extend my thanks to everybody across all of the services, and I apologise if I haven't named anybody specifically, but that covers everyone. You know, it really is just extraordinary, and I think it's amazing to see the results for culture, absolutely incredible. And I think it's important not to cloud children's services when they haven't necessarily got a gold star, because the work that they are achieving with the national pressures and retaining an outstanding service is just simply incredible. And the passion runs right the way from the top all the way up down to everyone that's involved in there. So I just wanted to make that point and just extend my thanks to everybody involved.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. Are there any more questions or comments to be made? Okay, thank you. So I propose that the committee has reviewed the report and is satisfied with the Children's and Culture Service level performance for 25-26 as at Q3. Could you please raise your hand if you agree? I think that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. So item 9, Children's and Culture Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. This item is on pages 139 to 146 of the agenda pack and sets out the work programme of the Children and Culture Scrutiny Committee. The actions required by the committee are to review and agree the committee's work programme as set out in this report, and 2, to highlight for discussion any additional scrutiny activity which could be considered for inclusion in the work programme. The report will be presented by Tracy Johnson, our Senior Scrutiny Officer. Over to you, Tracy, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have a few additions to report to the work programme. A pre-decision report on the Donington Thomas Cowley single class extension has been added to the 24th of April agenda, and that is prior to a decision between the 5th and the 15th of May by the Executive Council for Children's Services and the Executive Council for Resources. Another pre-decision report has been added onto the 27th of November agenda, and this is in relation to the Outreach Services Commissioning Review, and that again is prior to a decision by the Executive Council for Resources and the Executive Council for Children's Services between the 27th of November and the 11th of December. Under items to be programmed, we've also added on an update at some point on the conclusion of the Lincoln Museum development, which hopefully will be around the October-November time meetings. And again, we'll tie in a visit to the Lincoln Museum once it's been completed in relation to that report. In terms of the committee's next meeting, that's on the 24th of April. The committee has 4 pre-decision reports to consider. These are on the proposed development of SEND hubs at the Hawthorne Tree School, Boston, Butterwick Pinchbecks Endowed CFE Primary School, Sleaford Church Lane Primary School and Nursery, Tetford the Edward Richardson Primary School, and Lincoln St Francis Hill Community Primary School. So that'll be coming through as one decision. There's another decision report in relation to the Edge of Care Service commissioning, the Donington Thomas Cowley single class extension I've just mentioned, and also a report on the Spalding Academy extension. And I've made a note of the request for the early years report, so I'll liaise with officers, so maybe around June, July time, looking at our agendas, maybe something for one of those items to bring forward. But happy to take any other suggestions. Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, thank you, Tracy. I'd like to invite you now for any comments on the work programme. Councillor Hume, do we have any speakers, please? Councillor Cleaver, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, you're aware that I did correspond with you about the possibility of us as a committee looking into the issue of 16 to 18-year-olds not in education, employment or training within the county. So I'd like to just put that on record that I think it would be a very useful thing for this committee to look into at some point in the next few months. And also, because of what we mentioned today, the question of reviewing the operation and performance of youth services. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Yes, that is both of them being looked into for you. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or comments to be made, please? Okay, thank you very much. This concludes this discussion on this item. I suggest, I propose that we approve the planned work programme subject to the consideration of any items highlighted in today's discussions. Can you please raise your hand if you agree? I think that's unanimous. Thank you. That's agreed on. Thank you very much, all of you, for your comments and questions and for the reports we've had today. So that concludes our meeting for today. Thank you.